finishing up the session here on Tuesday, July 28th. So let's talk about what happened here today and what to expect going forward for tomorrow and the rest of the week. Not much has changed since we last spoke yesterday. We are still forming and now have started to form a nice consolidation range here between 74.18 as support and 75.06 here as our resistance. 74.18 at this point is very well tested. We put in another little support bounce today that ended up essentially rallying us the rest of the day today, which was a micro failed breakdown as well. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes about a potential trade idea today that was on the table. But yeah, ideally, really here we've just been in a range from 74.18 to 75.06 the last couple of days. So for bulls, what they want to do here now is they're going to have to try to see if they can reclaim 75.06 and gain back some interim control. And for sellers, their goal is going to be to keep us below 75.06 here, or if we get up there, to slap another hard back test back down into the lows and ultimately actually be able to flush these lows. So a lot of kind of where we go over the next week or so and into the rest of the week is going to depend on whether or not this support at 74.18 is going to be able to hold or not. So far, this has been a very strong support that's held multiple times, but with each test, it does get weaker. So it is quite well tested now, and it is prone to potentially failing if we do get traction below here now, which would definitely open up sellers to gain some good traction below and look for a pretty hard sell to get us out of this mode 2 range in general that we've been in for the past month or so, as discussed, from 74.74 to 76.27. This would just yield some more downside potential. So let's quickly kind of go over the failed breakdown today that was an option. So one of the options we did have here today was this failed breakdown that we were eyeing of 74.12, which was the prior week low, as well as 74.17, which was the low we had. Hold on, let me. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it was a 74.12 low, as well as we had the prior day low here at 74.17. Now that was the ideal trade if we could have swept both and reclaimed. However, this morning, again, we opened RTH and got another sell down. But the big thing being was we didn't actually lose the lows we had planned. So the 74.17 and the 74.12 low were never actually lost. Now, we did put in a failed breakdown in the sense of we actually had new structure overnight which formed, and we had a low here at 74.19. We did flush this for 2 points and reclaimed with quite some good momentum. And so, this is actually one of those times where I think it's good to be able to pivot in real time, right? We have some new structure that formed overnight. We did put in a failed breakdown. Again, ideally we put in a failed breakdown of this entire region, but you have to kind of follow what price does, and in this case price wasn't able to do that. All it did instead was just put in a failed breakdown here of this overnight low, and then we had some really nice momentum that came in and started taking us higher. And so because of that, I personally in real time really liked that momentum, and so I took the long once we were pushing with some good force, and that ended up pushing us quite well into the rest of the session today, where we got up to 74.74 again, and now I've just been back to chopping this afternoon. So that was definitely a really good opportunity. I think good thing to kind of review is being able to identify newer structures that form, and how you can potentially pivot for trade ideas if what you mainly want isn't going to occur. And so I think that was a good example today about being able to do that. So tomorrow we do have FOMC, so that'll potentially be a driver of volatility if it proves to be. But the agenda is going to remain the same. It's going to all be about this 74.18 level, if we can hold it or not for support. That is going to be the key thing to watch out for. And if we are, then we will go back test 75.06 and 75.06. Just as a reminder, again, this was from last Thursday, a major support shelf we had that we lost on Thursday afternoon. So that now is turned into resistance. We've already back tested it once. Sellers slapped it back down. So we'll see if we can get back up there again, and ultimately bulls will have to reclaim that, and bears are going to be looking for 74.18 and below to really get a hard sell going. So let's see if FOMC brings any noise tomorrow into what we have going, and we'll take it from there.